Interesting to note in the last, say, 2 weeks, which have been really the worst debacle for Meghan and Harry in terms of positive PR, that finally, so it would appear, one micro celebrity has decided to come out and sort of defend them. Or has he? Flip flopping around a bit like a dead fish in water. He can't decide which way to go, but as ever, seeking an opportunity and seizing the moment, he's decided to put out this. As ever, let me explain. Hi, good morning. Nice to see you. I hope you're well today. Yes, I mean, it's a funny thing actually. This particular celebrity I met a couple of years ago now, and not at all known over here in the United Kingdom, which was odd because as he turned up to the opening night of a West End show, obviously I spotted him having worked and continue to work in America. I knew briefly who he was. To say he was unfriendly would be an understatement, but of course, when he realised that this was potentially a major US network, he decided to flip on at least some level of micro charm. We're talking, of course, about the Real Housewives host and Watch What Happens Next live, Andy Cohen. Now, good chum of Anderson Cooper, so you're seeing a connection build already here. What's fascinating about this particular story is this, you see. Recently, Andy's decided to come out and to defend his appearance on the now defunct Spotify podcast Archetypes, yes, alongside Meghan Markle, basically claiming, well, she spoke to him. Wow, weren't you the lucky one, Andy, giving time in front of such a prestigious person, a podcaster? Wonderful. But of course, it doesn't really correlate with his story over with his book, the Daddy Diaries, which he released and detailed about his time working alongside Meghan for that podcast. Now, you have to remember that Meghan herself apparently said she wasn't too much of a fan of this type of reality TV. Andy hosts sort of, people would say, populist television, the Real Housewives franchise. Very successful around the world. I believe there's an episode of it wherever you go. We had one over here in the United Kingdom. Didn't do that well. I think it's sort of on and off. It's not a permanent thing. But here's where it gets interesting, because now Andy's saying, oh no, she spoke to me and it was great, etc. In his book, slightly different story. He said that she'd obviously chiseled her own narrative, which we now know what that means, and that while she had reservations about the sort of programming that he made, she was looking forward to sitting down. As Andy pointed out himself, he didn't get a chance to ask or indeed rebut any of these questions or thoughts that she had in mind, simply because it was edited, so he said, or in fact the questions were never discussed in front of Meghan in such a way. So one could say, whether that's her producers or indeed her, somebody decided the narrative of that particular story. Now, why would Mr. Cohen decide, as I say, to come out and be so defensive? Well, it's quite simple, really. When they sniff a celebrity on the decline, which is what Meghan and Harry are right now, there's an opportunity for him to invite Meghan onto his chat show, What Happens Live. Now, what's interesting here, you see, is if you recall the US comedian Kathy Griffin, who also worked alongside Mr. Cohen for a while until they had a spectacular falling out, she pointed out that he was just an executive over at Bravo TV, I believe. But apparently, being an executive, he could commission his own shows. And so he did, and wiped out Miss Griffin, allegedly. And what's interesting here, you can see the pushiness and the reason why obviously Meghan and Andy at points are kindred spirits. Either way, for now, Andy's hoping in his best interests that Meghan may sit down with him to discuss the fallout of what's been a disastrous couple of weeks in the world of Meghan and Harry's PR. But again, I wonder if he will give her the same courtesy that she gave him, and maybe he could re-edit their conversation in the final outing. As ever, it's a celebrity battle to the fore. It's a developing story. When I know more, you'll know more. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.